They say mirrors only reflect what's in front of them. But what if one didn't? What if your reflection had a mind of its own, smiling when you didn't, moving when you walked away, watching when you slept? Tonight, you'll hear the story of a teenager who brought home an old mirror from a yard sale. A mirror that didn't just reflect her, it watched her. And once she realized what it really wanted, it was already too late. So, if you're watching this alone, maybe you should cover your mirror, because when this story ends, you might notice your reflection hasn't moved in a while. They say mirrors only reflect what's in front of them. But what if one didn't? What if your reflection had a mind of its own, smiling when you didn't, moving when you walked away, watching when you slept? This story begins in a small town outside Cleveland, Ohio, a place where nothing exciting ever happens until something does. 16-year-old Rachel Carter had one of those summers. Boring, empty, filled with yard sales, thrift stores, and too much time scrolling through her phone. She had this strange love for old things, items with history, as if touching them made her feel less invisible. That Saturday morning she found it. At the end of a cracked driveway, half hidden behind boxes of chipped teacups and rusted tools, stood an antique mirror, tall, ornate. Its frame was carved with strange patterns she couldn't quite make out, curves that almost looked like faces if you stared too long. The glass itself wasn't clean. It had that smoky, aged look, the kind you'd expect to distort your reflection. But when Rachel stepped in front of it, the reflection was crystal clear. Too clear. She felt her stomach knot, though she didn't know why. It was only $5. She handed over the bill, and the woman running the sale leaned in with a whisper, almost as if she was relieved to let it go. "Be careful with that, honey. It's been around." Rachel laughed it off. Old people always said creepy stuff about antiques. But as she dragged it inside her bedroom later that day, she couldn't shake the feeling that the mirror wasn't just heavy with wood and glass. It was heavy with something else. That night, when she lay in bed scrolling through TikTok, the glow of her screen reflected faintly in the mirror across the room. She wasn't looking directly at it, but she could swear she saw something. Her reflection was smiling, and Rachel wasn't. Rachel froze. Her phone slipped from her hand and landed on her chest, the light flickering across her ceiling. She told herself it was nothing, just shadows, just her tired eyes. But when she leaned up, staring directly at the mirror, her reflection wasn't copying her. It still wore that faint, unsettling grin. The corners of its lips tugged upward like it was enjoying something. Rachel sat up quickly, breathing hard. Her reflection followed the movement this time, but that smile lingered, just long enough to make her skin crawl. She grabbed her blanket and tossed it over the mirror, whispering, "Not tonight." For a while, she convinced herself she was being ridiculous. Teenagers saw creepy things all the time online. Mirrors, dolls, shadows in the dark. Maybe her brain just wanted something scary. But the next morning, when sunlight poured through her window, she noticed the blanket had slid off the mirror, neatly folded on her desk, and Rachel lived alone with her mom. Her mom had left for work at dawn. She stood frozen, her hands shaking as she touched the blanket. It wasn't crumpled like it should have been. It was folded, straight-edged, like someone had done it carefully. Her reflection stared back, normal this time. Almost too normal. At school, she couldn't stop thinking about it. Every shiny surface she passed, windows, the chrome on someone's locker, even the bathroom sink faucet. She thought she saw something off, like her reflection's eyes lingered on her a second too long before moving. That night, she FaceTimed her best friend Maya, laughing nervously as she told her about the haunted mirror. Maya rolled her eyes. "Girl, you've been watching way too many creepy story times. It's just a mirror. If it bugs you that much, cover it with something heavier." Rachel forced a laugh, but when the call ended, her bedroom felt too quiet. At 20:17 a.m., she woke up thirsty. As she reached for her water bottle, her eyes flicked toward the mirror. Her reflection was already sitting up, staring at her. And this time it didn't move when she did. Rachel sat frozen in her bed. Her reflection wasn't hers anymore. It tilted its head slightly like a curious predator. Its eyes shimmered darker than usual, almost hollow. She lifted her hand slowly. Her reflection didn't move. Instead, it raised its hand a second later, like it was deciding whether or not to follow. Rachel whispered, "No, no, this isn't real." But then it smiled again, that same smile, wide,
Stretched wrong.
The air in her room felt heavy, pressing down on her chest. She wanted to scream, to run, but her body refused to move. And then her reflection placed its hand flat against the glass. Tap, tap, tap. The faint sound echoed in her room. But Rachel hadn't touched the mirror. Heart pounding, she lunged forward, yanked the blanket from her desk, and slammed it over the glass. Her breaths came in ragged gasps, her skin clammy. She didn't sleep the rest of that night. The next day, her mom noticed her pale face at breakfast. "Rachel, you okay? You look sick." Rachel forced a smile. "Just tired." But she wasn't just tired. She was terrified. At school, in the cafeteria's glass window, she saw it again. Her reflection's mouth moved before hers, whispering something she couldn't hear. That night, she texted Maya, "I'm scared. It's not just the mirror. It's everywhere now." Maya replied with a laughing emoji. "Girl, it's stress. You're fine." But Rachel knew she wasn't fine, because at 3:03 a.m., the blanket slid off the mirror again, and this time her reflection was standing outside the bed, watching her sleep. Rachel's eyelids snapped open. Her body was still, but the mirror wasn't. Her reflection wasn't in bed anymore. It was standing at her desk, head tilted, watching. Rachel's breath caught in her throat. She tried to move, but her limbs felt pinned by an invisible weight. And then, her reflection raised its hand. It slowly dragged a finger across its throat, smiling. Rachel gasped. Her own hand twitched against her neck. She wasn't moving it, but the muscles pulled tight, like invisible strings were attached. "No, stop," she whispered. The reflection grinned wider. The next morning, Rachel avoided the mirror completely. She brushed her teeth staring at the sink. She dressed without glancing at the glass. But reflections are everywhere. In the classroom window, in a puddle outside, even in her phone camera. Everywhere she looked, her reflection seemed just a little bit ahead of her, blinking before she did, smiling before her lips moved. By Friday, she hadn't slept more than 2 hours a night. Her friends thought she was losing it. Her mother threatened to take her to therapy. But Rachel knew therapy wouldn't help, because the reflection wasn't in her head. It was real. That night, as she lay in bed, a text from her own number. It read, "Don't bother running. I'll be you soon." The mirror across the room began to creak, like someone pressing hard against the glass from the inside. Rachel pulled the blanket over her face, tears streaming. And then she heard it, her own voice, whispering from the mirror, "Switch with me." Rachel's phone slipped from her trembling hands. The screen stayed lit, showing the text she should never have received. Her own number, her own words, but not her. Across the room, the mirror bulged outward. The surface rippled like liquid silver, pressing forward as if something inside was pushing through. Her reflection wasn't lying still anymore. It was clawing at the glass, nails scraping, ice wild. Rachel stumbled backward, heart pounding. She grabbed her desk lamp and hurled it at the mirror. The glass didn't shatter, it swallowed the lamp. The cord whipped from the wall as the object vanished into the surface. The reflection bent down, picked it up, and grinned. Her grin only twisted sharper. "No, no, this isn't real," Rachel whispered, clutching her hair. But then her phone buzzed again. Another text. "Almost ready. Look at me, Rachel." Her body jerked. Like invisible strings tugged her chin toward the mirror. She fought, straining every muscle, but her head turned anyway. And she saw herself, not the tired, terrified version she felt like. This reflection was stronger, confident, hungry. And then, her reflection raised its hand and pressed it against the glass. Her own palm lifted against her will. She tried to pull back, but her hand met the mirror, warm, like touching living skin. The glass rippled around her palm. Her reflection leaned closer and whispered, though Rachel never saw its lips move, "One more night. Then you're mine." The lights in her room flickered. Rachel screamed and yanked her hand away, stumbling back against her bed. When she looked again, the mirror was calm, just glass, just her. But on her palm, a faint print, like a hand burned into her skin, and it wasn't fading. Rachel barely slept that night. Every time she closed her eyes, she swore she could hear a faint tapping from the mirror, like nails, impatient waiting. By morning, the burn on her palm had darkened into a full handprint, a mirror of her own. She wrapped it with gauze, refusing to look at the glass. But mirrors don't care if you ignore them. They watch, they wait. At dusk, she noticed something wrong. The mirror didn't reflect her room anymore. It reflected another room, a darker one, with peeling wallpaper and shadows that moved too slow to be hers. And standing inside it was her. The reflection tilted its head, lips curling into that awful grin. It lifted the desk lamp she'd seen swallowed the night before and clicked it on. It wasn't just mimicking anymore. It was living. Rachel backed toward the door, fumbling with the knob, locked. She didn't remember locking it. Her phone buzzed one final time. The message read, "Look closer." Her body stiffened. Against her will, her eyes dragged back to the mirror. The reflection reached forward, pressing both hands flat. The glass rippled, bubbling outward like a second skin. Rachel screamed, pounding at the door, but her limbs grew heavy, like something was pulling from the inside. The reflection stepped forward. Her body jerked back. The glass broke open, soundless liquid pouring into the room. Rachel tried to run, but in a blink, her reflection grabbed her wrist, yanking her forward. Her scream cut off. The mirror swallowed her whole. The room fell silent. When the glass stilled, only one Rachel remained. She stood in the bedroom, breathing slowly, adjusting her hair with a smile. On the other side, in the dark, the real Rachel banged and clawed at the glass, her screams muffled. No one would hear her again. The mirror had made its choice.